samsaradava nalalira loka tranaya karduna guna gunatvam
samsaradava nalalira loka tranaya karduna gunatvam
praptasya kalyana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanaravinda
praptasya kalyana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanaravinda
Mahaprabhu kirtana nitya gita vaditra madhyan manasorasena
Mahaprabhu
romancha kampa shutaranga vajo vande guru shri charanaravinda
romancha kampa shutaranga vajo vande guru shri charanaravinda
shri vigrahara
Singaratanma niramajanado
yuktasya bhaktam stanyanjatapi vande guru shri charanaravinda
yuktasya bhaktam stanyanjatapi vande guru shri charanaravinda
chaturvida shri bhagavat prasado swadanat triptan hari bhaksha sangram
chaturveda shri bhagavat prasado swadanat triptan hari bhaksha sangram
kritraiva triptim bhajata sadaiva vande guru shri charanaravinda
kritraiva triptim bhajata sadaiva vande guru shri charanaravinda
shri radhika madhavayorapara madhurya leela gunarupanamna
shri radhika madhavayorapara madhurya leela gunarupanamna
pratikshanasva ganalolupasya vande guru shri charanaravinda
pratikshana svadanarupasa vande guru shri charanaravinda
vande guru shri charanaravinda vande guru shri charanaravinda
vande guru shri charanaravinda vande guru shri charanaravinda
nikunjayono ratikele sedhai yayali vir yuktirapekshaniya
nikunjayo naratikalisira dayali viduktirapekshaniya
tatrati dhaksha ativalabhasya vande guru shri charanaravinda
tatrati dhaksha Patibadabasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Sakshadarittvina samasvashastre uktastathavayate vasadi
Sakshadarittvina samasvashastre uktastathavayate vasadi
Kinto praborya priyeva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Into Prabodha Vyavatasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada nagati kutapi
Yasha Prasada Bhagavad Prasada Yasha Prasada Nagati Kutapi
Jayam stuvam stasa yasatri sadyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Jayam Subham Tassa Yasatin Sanya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda 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 Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namah Krishna Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare
Jaya Radha Nilamarva Radha Nilamarva Radhe
Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe
Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe
Radhe
Jai Shri Radhe
Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe
Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshan Chakra Jaya Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva
जय विश्वपार परम सप्रभा जगाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सरस्वती श्री महाराज जुबान के सभचर बिन भक्ति विरंत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि संस्थापक आचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन श्री प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौरी गुरु वर्गापति उद्धार की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ जी गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नमाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। अनंत कुरु वैष्णव की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम सच्चिदानंद स्मरण गुरु चैतन्य महाप्रभु गुरु हरि मावन अवतार की जय। गौर की प्रमधानी नम संकीर्तन जय की जय। युग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहत् निदांग कृष्ण सेवा की जय। शिष्य राधा कृष्ण गोप नरधा कुंज समकुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रज वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय। तिलोश शिष्य राधा नील माधव की जय। शेष माया पुण्यद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम चित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बालादेव प्रभु भद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कनिष्ठ हरे भगवान की जय। गंगा माय जमुना माय की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्रीमती राधा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौर हरि प्रमानंदे। All glories to somebody bodies. All glories to somebody bodies. All glories to somebody bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories. Shri Guru Shri Gauranga.
Narasimhaya Prahlada Lada Daine Hiranyakashipu Rakshaham
Hiranyakashipu Rakshaham
Shilatanka Nakalahae
Jaya Silatanka Nakalahae
Hito Nasimha Parato Nasimho
Eto Nishinga Parato Nishinga
Yato Yato Yami Tato Nasimha
Jaya Jato Jato Jami Tato Nishinga
Bahir Nasimha Hidahe Nasimha
Bahir Nishinga Rudaye Nishinga
Narasimha Madi Sharanam Aprade
Narasimha Madhim Sharana Prapade
Tabakara Kamalavari Nakam Abhuda Shinga Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanabringam Yeshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare
Abakara Kamalavari Nakam
Abhuda Shinga Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jaya Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Dev Jaya Narasimha Dev
Jaya Nishingadev Nishingadev Jaya Nishingadev
प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
नरसिंहदेव की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद
श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति पारे देवी सतवत्तये नमो नमः वृंदाई तुलसी देवाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति पारे देवी सतवत्तये नमो नमः वृंदाई तुलसी देवाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति पारे देवी सतवत्तये नमः श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदारी की तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावे अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
जितो मारा शरण लो तारा वंच पूरण हो
चित मार शरण तार वंच
कृपा कोरी को
pakore karatare Vrindavanasi
Murae Abhilash Vilas Kunj diyo
Morae Vilas kunje niyama
Nayane Haribo Sada Jugal Ruparasi
Aminayane vivasada jugala ruparasi Sakirayano katakara Sevayade karaniye karani jadasi
Dina Krishna dasi koi jina mora hoye
Na Krishna das kar hey namora
Shri Radha Govinda preme sada jina bhasi
Shri Radha Govinda prema sarayana vasi
Shri Radha Govinda preme sada jina bhasi
Shri Radha Govinda prema sarayana vasi
Yani kani cha papani Brahma hatyadikani cha Tani tani prana shanti Pradakshina pade pade
Janikani sapapani Brahma hatari kanisa Tani tani pranasanti Pradakshina pade pade
Yani kani cha papani Brahma hatyadikani cha Tani tani prana shanti Pradakshina pade pade
Janikani sapapani Brahma hatari kanisa Tani tani pranasanti Pradakshina pade pade
Yani kani cha papani Brahma hatyadikani cha Tani tani prana shanti Pradakshina pade pade
Janikani sapapani Brahma hatari kanisa Tani tani pranasanti Pradakshina pade pade
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari
Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol. श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय।
Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Sattva Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatabhatai Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Sattva Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatabhatai Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatabhatai Namo Namaha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in Pleasure Grove, Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastime of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a forever covered damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always sing in love with Shri Radha and go in the Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Kam ki jai. Chaito Darpanam Marjanam Bhava Mahadavat Nirvapanam Shreyakari Vachandika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Padipadam Punamrita Saranam Sarvatmasnam Param Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Nam Akari Buddha Yasava Shakti Vipanita Shmane Namala Itadusi Kapapaya Bhovanamapi Durdhaiva Mitishamiya Janinanuraga Vinadapi Sunichena Darorapi Saishna Avanamade Mama Janmani Janmaneshwari Avatar Bhakti Rahaitiki Dvai Ainandantanujak Inkaram Patitam Mabhisame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Padapam Katastita Duli Nisami Chintaya Dayanam Gavara Shudhavaya Vadanam Gadagada Vidaya Gina Pulakai Nichitam Vapu Kada Tavanam Karaneva Visati Yudhaitam Nimishayam Chakshatra Visaitam Sunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahiname Asli Shabhapadaratam Pinastama Adarshana Mahatam Karotula Tarakitama Vidayatulam
should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking of himself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Oh, my Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I know any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotion, service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Siksastikam Ki Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhuti Sumata Bhakti Sumata Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Ranchani Visesa. There are there are 10 offenses against the holy name that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their lives to propagating the holy names of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to equal to independent names of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as a nation. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities of karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desire for everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhischa, kripasindubhyevacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha, Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhuti Sumata Bhakti Sumata Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Ranchani Visesa Sunyavad Bhaskar. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadyasya Yato Nivayad Itaratas Chate Swavigyasurat. Tene Brahma Hirdaya Adhikavaye Muyanti Yatsurayaha. Tejo Varimidam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Misha. Dam Nasrena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimayi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, O Son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being, By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations in the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma Prochita Kaitruvutra Paramo Nirmatsanam Satam Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam Tapa Trayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimba Purir Ishwaraha Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Tara Krite Bihi Sususabhistakshanat. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nikama kalpataror galitam phalam Sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam Pibata Bhagavatam rasamalayam Muhur aho raska bhuvibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired true Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantak Stohi Bhadrani Vidunati Suhitsatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend, and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Nasta presu bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttam sloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Tadarajas tamo bhava kamalobadayas chaye chete taranavidam stitvam sattve prasidati. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manaso bhagavat bhakti yogitaha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Vidyate hirdaya grantis chidyante sarvasamsaya shiyante jasya karmani drista evat manishware. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the heart not of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth Personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Shri Shri Guru Vastika prayers ki jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end. He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food. Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava, and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana. I offer my most humble obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master. At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadiraja Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Chintamani Prakara Satma Sukalpa Vriksha Lakshavrite Susurabira Pikalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kwananda Aravinda Dalayataksham Bharhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesha Sobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvanavaya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Tribangalalitam Niyataprakasam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Andam Adyam Purana Purusham Davayam Vanam Cha Adyam Vedesu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Adyam Pantastukoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Munipungamanam Sobhyasti Yad Prapadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatum Jagaranda Kotim Yaschaktirasti Jagaranda Yachaktirasti Jagaranda Chayayadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyod Manajastataiva Prapya Rupa Mahima Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha Suktaryameva Nikama Pratitaistuvanti Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabihi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadaiva Hidayesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Amenatistan Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramaha Pumamyo Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Koti Svasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Koti Svasesu Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Asesat Bhutam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Trigunyatad Vishaya Veda Vitayamana Sadvavalambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu Ya Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayat Yajasram Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nichadamni Tale Chatasya Devi Mahesa Haridama Sutesu Tesu Te Te Prabhava Nichaya Vitascha Yena Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shristi Stati Pralaya Sadhava Sakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Apiyasya Chachesta Tesa Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetoho Yasambutam apitata samapaitikar Govindam Adipurisham tamaham bhajami Deeparchadeva hitasantanam abhyupetya Deepayate vivitahetu samanudharma Yastadrigeva hicha vishnu taya vibhati Govindam Adipurisham tamaham bhajami Yakarna narnava jale bhajati sma yoga Nidramananta jagadanda saroma kupaha Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasitakala Matavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nataha Vishnur Mahan Sahi Yasya Kala Vishesho Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Basman Yatasma Sakadesu Nijesu Tejaha Swiyam Kiyat Prakatiyat Apitadvatatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvandve Pranama Samaya Dvandve Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Rajaha Vignan Vihanta Malamasya Jagatrayasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Marudisascha Kalastatatma Manasitti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yamcha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yas Chaksuresa Savitasa Kalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Tejaha Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Brahmati Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Srutayasta Pamsi Rama Dikita Patagava Dayascha Jivaha Yad Bhata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopam Atavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Chabhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Vitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gora Vasevya Bhavahai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurite Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravu Dhruva Bhumish Chintamani Ganamayi Toyam Amritam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivamsi Priyasaki Chidanantam Jyoti Param Apitad Aswadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bihi Shravati Surabi Vyascha Sumahan Nimesa Dakyuva Rajati Nahiyatrapi Samaya Bhaje Svita Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golokam Itiyam Vidantaste Santakshati Viralachara Katipaye. Shishopanishad ki jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamiva Vasishyate. Shivaishamidam sarvam chatkinja jagatyam jagatina taktena bunjitaha magridaha kasisviddanam. Gurvarnevaha Jajiva Chek Akarmani Jajiva Chek Chatam Samaha Evam Tvayi Nanyatetusti Nakarma Lipite Nare. Karmani Jajiva Chek Chatam Samaha Evam Tvayi Nanyatetusti Nakarma. Asurya Namate Loka Andena Tamasavritaha Tamste Pratya Vigachanti Yeke Chatmahano Jamaha. Anajad Evam Anajad Ekamanaso Javiyo Naina Devam Apravam Pravam Rasad Tadavato Jnana Teti Tistat Tasmin Apamata Visvadadati. Tani jati tane jati tadure tadvantike tadantarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya syabhayataha. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmane vanupasyati sarvabhute suchatmanam tatuna vijagupsate. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva budvichanataha tatrako mahakaha sukha ekatvam anapasyataha. Sapragastu kamakayam avadam asnaviram sudam apapavidam kavir vanisi paribu swayambhu yatatat yitro ritan vyadadas jasvatipyaha samabhyaha. Andham tamha pravisanti ye vidyam upasyate tato bhuya vite tamo yayu vidyayam rataha. Anya devahur vidyaya anya dahura vidyaya iti susrumadiranam yenastad vichachakside. Vidyam cha vidvan chayas yastad vedovayam saha avidyaya militum tijva vidyayam ritamasnate. Andham tamaha pravisanti ye sambhutim upasate tato bhuyavite tamo yayu sambhutam rataha. Anya devahur sambhavat anya dahur sambhavat iti susrumadiranam yenastad vichachaksire. Sambhutim cha vinasam cha yastad vedobhayam saha vinasena militum tirva sambhutam ritamastate. Hiranmayana patrina satyasya pitam mukam tatvam pusam apavrinu satyadharma yajasthaye. Pusane kasya yamasurya prajapatya vyuha rasmin samahotejo yate rupam kalyanatamam tate pasyami yo savaso purushaha sohamasmi. Vayuranilam amritam atedam basmantam sarinam om kratos smarakritam smara kratos smarakritam smara. Agne Om Agnenaya Supatara Yasman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidvan Yo Rajmas Juhuranamino Puyastam Tenama Uktim Vidma Om Tatsat. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, text number 15. Antak Saras Uru Balena Pada Grihito Grahena Yuta Patir Ambuja Hasta Arta Ahe Damadi Purushakila Loka Nata Tita Shravana Tita Shravana Mangala Namadeya. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in a river by a crocodile of superior strength, was much aggrieved. Taking a lotus flower in his trunk, he addressed the Lord, saying, O original enjoyer, Lord of the universe, O deliverer, as famous as a place of pilgrimage, all are purified simply by hearing your holy name, which is worthy to be chanted. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The history of delivering the leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in the river by the superior strength of a crocodile, is described in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Since the Lord is absolute knowledge, there is no difference between His holy name and the personality of Godhead. The leader of the elephants was much distressed when he was attacked by the crocodile. Although the elephant is always stronger than the crocodile, the latter is stronger than the elephant when it is in the water. And because the elephant was a great devotee of the Lord in his previous birth, he was able to chant the holy name of the Lord by dint of his past good deeds. Every living entity is always distressed in this material world because this place is such that at every step one has to meet with some kind of distress. But one who is supported by his past good deeds engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7:16. Those who are supported by impious acts cannot be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, even though they are distressed. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita in 7:15. The personality of Godhead, Hari, appeared at once on the back of his eternal bearer, Garuda, and delivered the elephant. The elephant was conscious of his relation with the Supreme Lord. He addressed the Lord as Adi Purusha, or the original enjoyer. Both the Lord and the living beings are conscious and are therefore enjoyers, but the Lord is the original enjoyer because He is the creator of everything. In a family, both the father and his sons are undoubtedly enjoyers, but the father is the original enjoyer and the sons are subsequent enjoyers. A pure devotee knows well that everything in the universe is the property of the Lord, and that a living entity can enjoy a thing as ordained by the Lord. A living being cannot even touch a thing which is not allotted to him. This idea of the original enjoyer is explained very nicely in the Ishopanishad. One who knows this difference between the Lord and himself never accepts anything without first offering it to the Lord. The elephant addressed the Lord as Akila Loka Nata, or the Lord of the universe, who is therefore the Lord of the elephants also. The elephant, being a pure devotee of the Lord, specifically deserved to be saved from the attack of the crocodile, and because it was a promise of the Lord that his devotee will never be vanquished, it was quite befitting that the elephant called upon the Lord to protect him, and the merciful Lord also at once responded. The Lord is the protector of everyone, but he is the first protector of one who acknowledges the superiority of the Lord instead of being so falsely proud as to deny the superiority of the Lord or to claim to be equal to him. He is ever superior. A pure devotee of the Lord knows this difference between the Lord and himself. Therefore, a pure devotee is given first preference because of his full dependence, whereas the person who denies the existence of the Lord and declares himself the Lord is called asura, and as such he is given protection by the strength of limited power subject to the sanction of the Lord. Since the Lord is superior to everyone, his perfection is also superior. No one can imagine it. The elephant addressed the Lord as Tirthashrava, or as famous as a place of pilgrimage. People go to places of pilgrimage in order to be delivered from the reactions of unknown sinful acts. But one can be freed from all sinful reactions simply by remembering his holy name. The Lord is therefore as good as the holy places of pilgrimage. One can be free from all sinful reactions after reaching a place of pilgrimage, but one can have the same benefit at home or at any place simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. For a pure devotee, there's no need to go to the holy place of pilgrimage. He can be delivered from all sinful acts simply by remembering the Lord in earnestness. A pure devotee of the Lord never commits any sinful acts, but because the whole world is full of the sinful atmosphere, even a pure devotee may commit a sin unconsciously as a matter of course. One who commits sinful acts consciously cannot be worthy of being a devotee of the Lord, but a pure devotee who unconsciously does something sinful is certainly delivered by the Lord, because a pure devotee remembers the Lord always. The Lord's holy name is called Shravana Mangala. This means that one receives everything auspicious simply by hearing the holy name. In another place in the Srimad Bhagavatam, his holy name is described as Punya Shravana Kirtana. It is a pious act simply to chant and hear all about the Lord. The Lord descends on this earth and acts like others in connection with the activities of the world just to create subject matters for hearing about him. Otherwise, the Lord has nothing to do in this world, nor has he any obligation to do so. He comes out of his own causeless mercy and acts as he desires. The Vedas and Puranas are full of description of his different activities, so that people in general may naturally be eager to hear and read something about his activities. Generally, however, the modern fictions and novels of the world occupy a greater part of people's valuable time. Such literatures cannot do good to anyone. On the contrary, they agitate the young mind unnecessarily and increase the modes of passion and ignorance, leading to increasing bondage to the material conditions. The same aptitude for hearing and reading is better utilized in hearing and reading of the Lord's activities. This will give one all-around benefit. It is concluded, therefore, that the holy name of the Lord and topics in relation to him are always worth hearing, and therefore he is called here in this verse Namadhyaya, or one whose holy name is worth chanting. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in a river by a crocodile of superior strength, was much aggrieved. Taking a lotus flower in his trunk, he addressed the Lord, saying, O original enjoyer, Lord of the universe, O deliverer, as famous as a place of pilgrimage, all are purified simply by hearing your holy name, which is worthy to be chanted. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Haribol. So this history of Gajendra, the elephant, is one of my favorite pastimes of the Lord, because all of us are like Gajendra. We got a crocodile that's biting our leg and not letting go, and it looks hopeless. That crocodile, of course, is lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, and envy. And it is holding on very, very, very powerfully and weakening us all the time. So we need the help of the Lord and his devotees to overcome this great handicap of having a crocodile biting our leg. You can imagine how horrible and stressful that is to see this horrible animal with his powerful jaws biting our leg and causing tremendous damage. Well, the good news is, Chaturvide Bhajante Mam, Jana Sukutina Regiona, Artarti. So there are four kinds of people who engage in devotional service or come to Krishna. Chaturvida Bhajante Mam, Jana Sukritina Regiona. They are Sukritina, they are pious, because they've performed pious activity in this life and in previous life. Arta. And then it says that the first is the person who's in distress, and then it is Arta Jigyasa Arta Arti, one who's seeking wealth, and then it's the curious, and then it's the person who's genuinely seeking knowledge of the Lord. Jnani Cha Bharatarsabha, the Jnani. So best among the Bharatas, the four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. So none of these persons has a pure desire. Of course, the last one is purer than the other three. However, if they engage in devotional service and associate with bona fide gurus, then they cannot become pure devotees. Anya vilasita sunyam gyanakarmadya navritam anukulyena krishnana silanam bhaktir uttama. Or bhaktir uttama, yes. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. So Prabhupada says, when these four kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service and are completely purified by association of a pure devotee, they also become pure devotees. As far as the miscreants are concerned, for them devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. But even some of them, by chance, when they come in contact with a pure devotee, also become pure devotees. So we see how regulation is extremely important in spiritual life. It's going to sleep early, waking up early, chanting our rounds properly, with let's say, rapt attention, and then observing the Mangala Aarti, Tulsi Aarti, and then hearing the class. This is an inoculation against Maya. It's the vaccine, the real vaccine. Right? Not this phony vaccine, but this is the real vaccine. And if we keep taking the vaccine every day, then Maya will have no place to enter into our mind or our body and distract us from Krishna consciousness. So the goal is to become a pure devotee. The goal is to be able to think of Krishna always. So if there's a crocodile is biting your leg, guess who you're going to think of always? Krishna, right? But actually, every one of us has a crocodile biting our leg, in the form of the threefold miseries and time that's destroying everything, and the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, the three modes of material nature, and lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, and envy. All these things are biting our leg, making it bleed and hurting it. And therefore, if we're cognizant, just like the tree is able to suffer tremendously, unbelievably, because its consciousness is very low. And the same way, if our consciousness is very low, we will suffer like anything all the time. And just not be aware that there's a way to stop the whole thing. When a person is suffering terribly, they are seeking some way to end the suffering, or if they're really dumb, they take drugs to tamper or to lessen the consciousness so that one can endure the pain. So, just like sometimes there's induced coma when a person is very highly injured and in tremendous pain, they induce an artificial coma so that they can heal the person without the person always being, let's say, stressed and crazy, because if you're in constant pain, you can't just sit there idly. You'll be moving around, you'll be panicking, and just like when people start panicking, it's very difficult to control them. So they induce a coma, put a person basically in very, very low consciousness so they can suffer the pain without freaking out and disturbing the healing process. So in the same way, people take drugs to not feel so acutely the pain. But how is that? It lowers their consciousness so that they're not so much aware of the pain. So these are, and this is what happens when people suffer a lot. They take drugs so that they're not so conscious of the pain. Well, the elephant, on the other hand, Gajendra, was conscious of his relation with the Supreme Lord. Why? Because in a previous life he had acted piously, and therefore even now he's in the body of an animal, he still is able to remember some remnants of his previous life. That's why one is never a loser by engaging in devotional service. One is never a loser when they engage in devotional service, because the benefit of devotional service stays with you wherever you go, whatever body you have. And you start from the point you left off in the next life. Okay, so both the Lord and the living beings are conscious and are therefore enjoyers. But the Lord is the original enjoyer because he is the creator of everything. In a family, both the father and the sons are undoubtedly enjoyers, but the father is the original enjoyer and the sons are subsequent enjoyers. A pure devotee knows well that everything in the universe is the property of the Lord, and that a living entity can enjoy a thing as ordained by the Lord. A living being cannot even touch a thing which is not allotted to him. This idea of original enjoyer is explained very nicely in the Ishopanishad. Yeah. Ishvara Parama. In the Ishopanishad, the Lord is the primary Ishvara, and we are all followers of the Lord or servants of the Lord. So once we establish that fact, we are on the fast track of going back to Godhead. The atheistic people reject the authority of the Lord. And they reject the Vedic scriptures and reject associating with devotees. So therefore, they're condemned. They're not able to make any spiritual progress, and they're always stuck in the process of birth, death, old age, and disease. So the idea of the original enjoyer is explained very nicely in the Ishopanishad. One who knows this difference between the Lord and himself never accepts anything without first offering it to the Lord. So they don't teach this in school. They don't say that God is the first enjoyer and we're the secondary enjoyer. We're the dependent enjoyer. They teach that you are the enjoyer. So when they say goodbye, they say, enjoy. Yeah. What does that mean? See, it has a big meaning. Enjoy. That means that you are the first enjoyer. See? And this is the type of false ego baiting that goes on in schools, because the whole purpose is to reject the authority of the Lord, reject the instructions of the Lord, and just speculate that you are the enjoyer. So this is a serious indictment of all people to be forced to suffer the rest of their life. So the elephant addressed the Lord as Akila Lokanata, or the Lord of the universe, who is therefore the Lord of the elephant also. The elephant, being a pure devotee of the Lord, specifically deserved to be saved from the attack of the crocodile, and because it is a promise of the Lord that his devotee will never be vanquished, it was quite befitting that the elephant called upon the Lord to protect him. Well, yesterday I did a Anaprasana, or a first grain ceremony, and I explained to the parents that the reason you're doing this ceremony is to understand that we all subsist on grains, and grains are produced by rains, and rains are produced by yagyas. And the only yagya that you can perform successfully in Kali Yuga is Hare Krishna Mahamantra Yagya. And yagyas are performed by regulated activities by pious persons. The whole Vedas are all about regulated activities for pleasing Vishnu. So, therefore I said that if you understand this, then every act you do will be meant to please Krishna. And therefore, Krishna promises that someone who recognizes him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who is convinced that simply by chanting Hare Krishna they can attain all desirable things for going back to Godhead, just those two realizations means that they will use everything in life to please the Lord. That's enough to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. Just understanding those two things and acting on it. So that's why it says that Gajendra specifically deserved to be saved from the attack of the crocodile, because it is the promise of the Lord that his devotee will never be vanquished. Now, how do we know Gajendra is a devotee? Well, because even though he was in the body of the elephant, he remembered a prayer that he learned in his previous life as a human being. In his previous life, he was the king, Indradumna. So, Prabhupada writes, in this chapter, the prayers by Gajendra, the king of the elephants, are described. It appears that the king of the elephants was formerly a human being known as Indradumna, and that he learned a prayer to the Supreme Lord. Fortunately, he remembered that prayer and began to chant it to himself. First, he offered his respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because of his awkward position in having been attacked by the crocodile, he expressed his inability to recite prayers nicely. Nonetheless, he tried to chant the mantra and expressed himself in appropriate words as follows. So this is amazing. He's a human being in his previous life. Now he's an elephant. This crocodile has bitten his leg, and he's able to remember a prayer that he used to recite previously, right, in the human form. And what does this prayer say? The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes, the original person from whom everything has emanated. He is the root cause of this cosmic manifestation, and the entire cosmos rests in him. Yet, he is transcendental, for he does everything in relation to the material world through his external energy. He is eternally situated in the spiritual world in Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavana, where he engages in his eternal pastimes. The material world is a product of his external energy or material nature, which works under his direction. It is thus that creation, maintenance, and annihilation take place. The Lord exists at all times. This is extremely difficult for a non-devotee to understand. Although the Transcendental Supreme Personality Godhead is perceivable by everyone, only the pure devotees perceive his presence and activities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely free from material birth, death, old age, and disease. Indeed, if anyone in this material world takes shelter of him, he also becomes situated in that transcendental position. For the satisfaction of the devotee, paritranaya sadhunam, the Lord appears and exhibits his activities. His appearance, disappearance, and other pastimes are not at all material. One who knows this secret can enter the kingdom of God. See, the secret, what is the secret? Ishvara Parama Krishna. That's the secret. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Satchitananda Vigraha, his body is not material. It's pure spiritual body. Anadir Adir Govinda, he has no birth. He's the original person. He has no origin or no cause. He is the original cause of all causes. Anadir Adir, and it's called Govinda, the protector of the cows and the brahmanas. And Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarvakarana Karanam, and he's the original cause of all causes. So that's enough to go back to Godhead. If you just understand that and act on those absolute truths about God. So he's the controller of everything. He's the witness of all activities, and he is the original source of all living entities. Indeed, all living entities are parts of him, for he is the origin of Mahavishnu, who is the source of the living entities within this material world. The Lord can observe the activities of our senses, which can work and achieve material results because of his mercy. Although he is the original source of everything, he is untouched by any of his byproducts. In this way, he is like a gold mine, which is the source of gold in ornaments, and yet is different from the ornaments themselves. The Lord is worshipped by the method prescribed in the Pancharatras. He is the source of our knowledge, and he can give us liberation. Therefore, it is our duty to understand him according to the instructions of devotees, in particular the spiritual master. Although for us the mode of goodness is covered by following the instructions of saintly persons and the spiritual master, we can be freed from material clutches. This self-effulgent material form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is adored by non-devotees. This self-effulgent material form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is adored by non-devotees. His impersonal form is adored by those advanced in spiritual knowledge, and his feature as the localized supersoul is appreciated by yogis. But his original form as a person is understood only by devotees. So that when it says self-effulgent material form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is adored by non-devotees, that means that everyone is attracted to Krishna, even though they're not a devotee. I remember the first time I saw a poster of Krishna, it's in Beirut, and I went into this meat shop to buy a meat sandwich. And I look up on the wall and I see this picture of this, I wasn't sure whether it was a man or a woman because it's very beautiful. and he had a cow. He had his arm around the cow, and he had some peacock feather and jewelry, and I just kept looking at it, and then the guy kept asking me, "What do you want?" I kept looking at it. "Well, I think I want a sandwich." I said, "Okay, how many you want?" And I was a little confused because I kept looking at the poster, and afterwards when I left, I was just thinking that was such a nice poster. I was attracted to it, And then later on, I found out it's Krishna, but that was like a year later. I found out that. So you see, even the non-devotees are attracted to the self-effulgent material form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what is a self-effulgent material form? It's a representation of Krishna through matter, right? Just like we have the deities and we have pictures and things like that. But it's the Lord. Okay, so that Supreme Personality of God is competent to dissipate the darkness of the conditioned soul through his instructions in Bhagavad Gita. He is the ocean of transcendental qualities and can be understood only by liberated persons freed from the bodily concept of life. By his causeless mercy, the Lord can rescue the conditioned soul from the material clutches and enable him to return home back to Godhead. So this is the prayer that Gajendra is remembering from his previous life. And what a prayer this is, right? And it's going on and on and on for, paragraph after paragraph, full of, every statement is full of deep spiritual realization of who God is, who Krishna is. And it says, it can enable one to return home back to Godhead, to become his personal associate. Nonetheless, a pure devotee does not aspire to go back to Godhead. He is simply satisfied with executing his service in this material world. A pure devotee does not ask anything from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His only prayer is to be freed from the material conception of life and to be engaged in the Lord's transcendental loving service. In this way, the king of the elephants, Gajendra, offered prayers directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead without mistaking him for one of the demigods. None of the demigods came to see him, not even Brahma or Shiva. Rather, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, seated on Garuda, personally appeared before him, Gajendra, by lifting his trunk, and then Gajendra, by lifting his trunk, offered obeisances to the Lord, and the Lord immediately pulled him from the water along with the crocodile who had captured his leg. Then the Lord killed the crocodile and thus rescued Gajendra. This is a prayer, right? And if we're lucky, we'd be able to pray like this too, where you explain everything about the Lord and your faith in him and your absolute guaranteed assurance that the Lord will come and save you if you're in difficulty. So this is Krishna consciousness, real Krishna consciousness. And the story of Gajendra is very important. We should meditate on it every day so that we're not in fear or anxiety. And we should read these prayers, his prayer. It goes on, there's more to it. And in that way, be safe and sound in our determination to be Krishna conscious. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Are there any questions?
So Maharaj, my question is about depending on the Lord. So Gajendra, when he tried on himself, he couldn't,
When he tried
rescue himself, and then he had to depend on the Lord. So there is a thin line between depending on the Lord and becoming lazy, right? For our carrying out the day-to-day activities also, we acquire knowledge and skills, and along with that also comes ego. I think that ego is a hindrance from from surrendering to the Lord. So how to practically, in our practical life, how to be depend on God, still carry on our activities and not become lazy?
You have to buy a crocodile. And every day you put your leg into the swimming pool where the crocodile is, let him bite you. Then you will be very, very conscious of Krishna. But see, the crocodile is biting you anyway, because there's the law of nature. If you engage in sense gratification, it'll be followed by suffering. So do you feel any suffering in life?
Yeah.
Of course. So you're being bitten every day by the crocodile. So that should, the only solution to it is to remember Krishna. Because then, what does it say? It says, the elephant was conscious of his relation with the Supreme Lord. He addressed the Lord as Adi Purusha, or the original enjoyer. Both the Lord and the living beings are conscious and are therefore enjoyers. But the Lord is the original enjoyer because he's the creator of everything. In the family, both the father and his sons are undoubtedly enjoyers, but the father is the original enjoyer and the sons are subsequent enjoyers. A pure devotee knows well that everything in the universe is the property of the Lord, and that a living entity can enjoy a thing as ordained by the Lord. A living being cannot touch a thing which is not allotted to him. The idea of the original enjoyer is explained very nicely in the Ishopanishad. One who knows this difference between the Lord and himself never accepts anything without first offering it to the Lord. The elephant addressed the Lord as Akila Lokanatha, or the Lord of the universe, who is therefore the Lord of the elephant also. The elephant, being a pure devotee of the Lord, specifically deserved to be saved from the attack of the crocodile. And because it is a promise of the Lord that his devotee will never be vanquished, it was quite befitting that the elephant called upon the Lord to protect him, and the merciful Lord also at once responded. So, if you are always remembering Krishna, then you can expect that if you call upon him, he's going to come immediately and he's going to save you. So we need to be saved every day. That's why we need to chant our rounds every day. We're calling on the Lord when we chant our rounds. We're saying, please, Lord, please, Radharani, please, Krishna, protect me so that I can always remain your servant. So that's how powerful this Maha, that's why it's called Maha Mantra, the great mantra of deliverance. So you keep chanting, and the Lord keeps protecting you and saving you. And you can expect. The elephant called upon the Lord to protect him, and the merciful Lord also at once responded. At once responded. Right? The Lord is the protector of everyone, but he is the first protector of one who acknowledges the superiority of the Lord instead of being so falsely proud as to deny the superiority of the Lord or to claim to be equal to him. He is ever superior. A pure devotee of the Lord knows this difference between the Lord and himself. Therefore, a pure devotee is given first preference because of his full dependence, whereas the person who denies the existence of the Lord and declares himself the Lord is called Asura. And as such, he is given protection by the strength of limited power subject to the sanction of the Lord. Since the Lord is superior to everyone, his perfection is also superior. No one can imagine it. So here you have a foolproof process of being protected and saved. You just have to remember that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there's no one equal to or greater than him, and that Krishna gives first preference to his devotee. We have to hear this on a regular basis. This will stop us from being puffed up. This will stop us from thinking, oh, I did this, I did that, I'm so great. We're completely dependent on the Lord. If you did anything, it's because the Lord supplied the intelligence and the materials so you could do it. You could not have done it without the help of the Lord. So we have to hear these things every day so we don't forget, because our disease is forgetfulness. Yeah. So that's why I like this pastime very much. There's a lot of deep philosophical understanding. in this history of Gajendra. And we're all Gajendras. Well, how did Gajendra get into trouble? He had a whole bunch of wives. He didn't just have one wife. He had a whole bunch of wives. And he was like the king of the jungle, right? And he would walk around with his wives, and he would always try and find nice ponds or lakes. And he goes into the water to bathe and to enjoy himself, right? And all his wives are there waiting on the shore, and he's bathing and enjoying himself. And all of a sudden, this crocodile comes out of nowhere. Crocodiles are bigger and stronger than alligators. Alligators are already dangerous, right? Crocodile's the worst. Right? The crocodile comes and bites his leg, Now, on land, Gajendra would be stronger than the crocodile. But in water, the crocodile is stronger than Gajendra. And eventually, Gajendra's energy diminishes, and he realizes that he's going to die. And that's when he turns to the Lord and gets a flower in his trunk. And he puts his trunk up and offers his obeisances and begins to say this prayer that he could remember. And then the Lord is pleased. So then he comes at once and lifts the crocodile and Gajendra out of the water and kills the crocodile. So that's what can happen to us also if we're Krishna conscious. And if we're not Krishna conscious, then the crocodile wins. He gets to eat you. You know how horrible it is that they can swallow you, or rip you apart and swallow each piece. They can do it rather quickly. Okay, oftentimes when people get eaten by alligators, they kill the alligator and cut open the stomach, and they see the parts of the body in the stomach of the alligator. It's horrible. Horrible. Haribol. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Which verse you read?
8th canto, 3rd chapter, the first verse. 8th canto, 3rd chapter. We should recite these prayers. We don't have to make up any prayers. We just recite these prayers. And all the knowledge is in this recitation of the prayer. So when people approach Krishna, they don't approach him with gimme this, gimme that, like you do when you approach the demigods. You approach him by glorifying him. And you don't ask for anything. He knows what you need. You don't have to ask him. But he's very pleased when you glorify him. So we have to learn. See, Gajendra, when he was a king, Indradumna, he learned this prayer. I remember my great auntie, she would teach me prayers to say. And I had to say them every night before I went to sleep. But those prayers were very full of realization about Jesus and God. Right? So we should memorize these prayers. Of course, if you just say the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it includes everything, right? So Lord Chaitanya has made it easy. But if you want to go further, then you can memorize the prayer of Gajendra. And there's the prayers of Brahma after he was defeated by Krishna. And then there's the prayers of Indra after he was defeated by Krishna. So there's all prayers. And every one of these prayers is only glorification of the Lord. There's no gimme this, gimme that. Yeah. The prayers to the demigods always gimme this, gimme that. Right? But these are only prayers of glorification of the Lord by glorifying his wonderful qualities. Right? Haribol. Like when the Christians pray, they usually make up prayers, right? They always say the Lord's Prayer, but they make up a lot of prayers, But Vaishnavas, they just repeat the prayers of the great devotees, like Gajendra and so forth. Haribol.
Demigod prayers itself
Yeah.
Whatever is already written, demigod prayers, there is always a many meaning in the prayers.
Yeah. When you pray the Durga Mata, you say, Dhanam Dehi, Janam Dehi. You know, I want money, I want many sons, I want a good body, I want my business to do well. You know, it's all Dehi, Dehi, Dehi. It's very selfish, huh? Yeah, if you're not sure, you can buy a crocodile. You can get a small one like this. Of course, it's going to go really big, you know. You keep it in your bathtub, you know. Every day you just stick your leg in there, let him bite you.
There was a news many years back. Someone kept crocodile or alligator in their backyard. Yeah, and that crocodile or alligator ate their kid or something.
Yeah.
Many years back,
It's in Thailand. It
I don't
happened.
remember exactly, but vaguely I remember someone did.
Yeah. No, the father had a crocodile farm or alligator farm. And one day his kid walks out, falls into the alligator thing, and he was eaten. That's crazy. There's one devotee in Alachua has an alligator in his backyard as a pet. You know what the alligators eat? They eat meat, right? So you got to feed the alligator, dead rabbits, huh?
There's a temple in Kerala where there's a pond and there's a crocodile, fully grown crocodile inside that, and he eats only prasadam.
Vegetarian, right? Vegetarian?
Vegetarian.
I think I saw that video too. In Kerala, yeah.
Really?
In northern part of Kerala.
Wow.
Nobody knows from where that crocodile came, but the crocodile every day morning comes to take the darshan by itself and then goes into the pond.
Darshan of the deity?
That's one of the people.
He walks into the temple?
He walks into the temple.
He doesn't eat anybody?
He doesn't eat anything. He doesn't harm anyone.
Wow.
He just goes into the pond.
Let me know where that temple is so I don't go there. Wow. Okay. Well, in the temple of Ganapati, they have rats.
Yeah.
Big ones like this, big rats. They're just sitting there watching you when you walk in, Haribol. India is an amazing place. An amazing place. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Mando Mui Savadana Mate Mando Mui Savadana Mate Janara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jaye Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya Arana Koriya Mane Asa Arana Koriya Mane Asa Shri Guru Charane Rati Ese Uttamagati Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asa Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asa Chakshudan Dilaje Janme Janme Prabhu se Divya Gyan de Prokasito Prema Bhakti Jahate Avidya Vinasajate Eben Prema Bhakti Jahate Avidya Vinasajate Vede Gajanara Charito Vede Gajanara Charito Prema Bhakti Jahate Avidya Vinasajate Prema Bhakti Jahate Avidya Vinasajate Lokanath Lokera Jivana Lokanath Lokera Jivana Ha Prabhu Kuradoya de Amori Padachaya Ebeas Gusukti Bhuvana Ebeas Gusukti Bhuvana Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, 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 Nita Gora Haribo. Nita Gora Haribo, 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 Nita Gora Haribo. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parajikachasantara Satvashishi Shamad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vindi Ki Jai, Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to Samad, all glories to Samad. All glories to Samad, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Granga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutri Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru. The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way by which you can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean till suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. Not only was that my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus feet. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection that goes all desire. Guilt is my darkness, and my heart the transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates by him, is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures speak of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and Lord of